Hello and welcome back for the final time to the Wrexham Way. Hope you're all doing well and looking forward to the final episode where we take a look back through the history of the Wrexham Way, the past 13 seasons that we've been through from start to finish, having a look at some of our best moments and some of our, I say worst moments. I don't think we've really had a bad time in this save. We've been pretty decent throughout, but we'll look through everything and see how things go. However, I will warn you for today's episode. I am recording this on a brand new computer, so things are a little bit weird on there. I've not properly set it all up yet and things like that. I'm also recording this in a different way as well to what I usually used to do, so things could go wrong there potentially. We are testing things out a little bit here today, and I'm also using new editing software as well. So 3 new things for today's video. Something might go wrong. In fact, probably something will go wrong at some point because it's 3 new things and it's trying it out all at the same time. So bear with me if things go a little bit wrong today, but hopefully it all goes smoothly. So let's jump into our league history over the course of the Wrexham Way. Of course, we started off in the National League where Wrexham are in real life, and actually in real life looking like they could maybe sneak promotion. They're doing very well at the moment. We ended up winning the league title with 96 points, and we won it on the final day of the season. If you cast your minds back all the way to season 1, I know it's a long time, we finished on 96 points, level on points with Stockport County, but it got very tight at the end. The penultimate game of the season was against Stockport County, and they beat us, which got a little bit worrying, particularly when we lost the final game. No, we drew the final game of the season 0-0. It wasn't a loss, we drew it. And that draw was enough to give us 96 points to then win the league ahead of Stockport County on goal difference. So we got very lucky there, but a really dramatic first season and a real battle with Stockport for the title, and I think it's actually the case in real life if I remember correctly. So hopefully history repeats itself and Wrexham win that title ahead of Stockport. In the end though, Stockport could not get promoted because they lost to Bromley, which was obviously not the ideal situation for them, but of course we then went on to steal Bromley's top scorer that season, George Alexander. Following our promotion from the National League, we knew we had a team capable of doing well in League 2 because most of our players were League 2 quality players already. And it showed as we dominated League 2, winning it with 101 points, getting promoted straight into League 1, where we didn't quite do as well as we had done in the National League or League 2. But we did have players in our teams like Paul Mullen, James Jones, Harry Lennon, Bryce Hosanna was still around at the club at that point as well. And I feel like there was another centre-back as well who was easily League 1 quality, and they really helped us get into the playoff places in League 1. In the playoff semi-finals, we managed to beat Derby County, which is absolutely fantastic, 3-2 on aggregate in that one, winning the first leg 1-0 and then drawing the second leg 2-2. And then when it came to the final, we took on Crewe Alexandra and won 3-1 in a fairly comfortable game. Can I click on that? Sadly, it's too long ago to actually, in fact, what we can do, I can go back in the save files, can't I? So going back into the save files for the actual date of that game, you can see that we absolutely dominated that game against Crewe. We massively deserved to go up, and if we'd lost that based on the match stats, it would have been an absolute bottling. So we thoroughly deserved to get promoted that season. What followed after that was a few difficult seasons in the Championship. Our first season, we were not quite ready for the Championship. We had the players to take us all the way to League 1 and probably do quite well in League 1 as well. Obviously, we got promoted at the first time of asking. But the Championship was a step up in terms of budget, in terms of playing time, in terms of the squad. We just quite weren't ready for it, essentially. It proved in Season 1 where we finished 20th, just about avoiding relegation there on 45 points. Would have been nice to get a few more points to just be solidly above that relegation zone, but 45 points was enough. We built on that the season afterwards, getting 20 more points and finishing a comfortable and respectable mid-table 13th place in the Championship, which I think was pretty decent going, to be fair. And then the season afterwards, we got ourselves promoted by coming second in the Championship table there with 95 points in total and 98 goals scored across all competitions. I think we had a very good formation that season, which really helped us score a ton of goals. Then, of course, we enter our Premier League era, which was very exciting for us. The first 2 seasons were struggles, I suppose. 16th and 14th in those first 2 seasons. Just getting our feet under the table, bringing the good quality players in. But once we did, we were so unlucky not to get more European football. In the 2029-30 season, we came 8th. I think we missed out on European football on goal difference, which is so frustrating. And the season afterwards, despite coming 6th, Other teams did well in cup competitions, finished lower down the table than us and won them, which meant that once again we missed out on European football on goal difference. I think we also bottled a cup final that season, which was not ideal. But the following 2 seasons, we won the Premier League, which is absolutely fantastic. The 31-32 season actually finishing with 2 more points than we did the season afterwards when we won the title. And then the final season that we did, we actually struggled a little bit and came third, although 3 points off the title winning points total that we had the season before, 5 points off the season from before that. So actually we weren't that far off at all. In fact, the only difference between those 2 seasons is our poor run of form in like January, December time, when we lost quite a few games in a row. 7 games lost that season compared to the 4 the season before that. It could have been completely different had we won a couple more games. So to add to the 2 Premier League trophies, the League 2 trophy, the Vanarama National League title, and the FA trophy that we won in season 1 as well, we've also picked up 2 Community Shields. We picked up a Carabao Cup, an Emirates FA Cup, and of course, most recently, the Champions League. But of course, what players helped us get to where we are right now? Well, let's look through the best 11 through every single season, shall we? And there's some big names here. Aaron Hayden, that's another one of those centre-backs that I couldn't quite remember the name of, but he was integral all the way up to the Championship, I think, Aaron Hayden. He left in the club in 2026, so I do believe will have played a few Championship games, but we can't quite see his full career. After leaving us, went on to Luton, Carlisle and Colchester, so obviously went back down the leagues just a little bit. But the back line of Aaron Lennon, Ben Tozer and Aaron Hayden is absolutely superb. Rob Langton in goal was a very good keeper for us. He stayed with us until he retired from football at the age of 34. Romani Medford-Smith, I believe, was a player that we brought into the club, but I could be wrong with you on that one. After leaving us in 2025, went on to play a long career for Mansfield Town as well. Bryce Ozana, a player that we spoke about and is still playing right now at the age of 35 in the Salford City under 23. But he had 5 seasons with us and was absolutely fantastic. His final season in the Championship, not really much to write home about, a 6.63. League 1, League 2, probably more his level to be fair, and had a great career with several clubs during that time. Of course, James Jones right in there. He went to Livingston after we let him go, but he was an integral player for us, so important all the way through to the Championship years. Did he play Premier League football? I don't think he did. I don't remember much about Jake Garrett though. Obviously, here just the 1 season, must have been on loan potentially. But I don't remember much about him at all, Jake Garrett. I think he was a loan player. Again, Luke Young rings a bell, but I can't remember much about him, although 22 goals and 159 appearances does suggest that he was quite integral to our team. Of course, we had Paul Mullen up top. He was absolutely incredible. 122 goals and 196 league appearances. Absolutely superb. And then Liam McCallendon didn't play that much for us and was quite the journeyman through his career. But I can't remember much about him either, to be fair. One name that does stick out to me on the bench, though, is Tristan Needham. I believe he was the first player that we brought into the club. I think in reality has just retired from football because of injuries or something like that. I can't quite remember. But he was a pretty decent player for us for a couple of seasons or so. I quite enjoyed him. I think he was also our first international player as well. We will speed through this. I know I have gone quite slowly through some of this so far, but we will speed through this and pick out names like George Alexander. He's still playing football right now, available to buy, but we picked him up for £115,000 for our first season in League 2 after he notched 30 goals in the National League the season before and did not let us down with 17 goals on our way to the title and helped us in promotion to the Championship with 11 goals in League 1 and was really integral for us in our second season in the Championship when we pushed our way through to mid-table by scoring 19 goals in the league that season and was actually pretty prolific for Stoke. After we sold him for £3.8 million, scored plenty of goals for them and for Millwall. Not entirely sure why he left on a free after his 2 seasons at Stoke because he was really solid. 13 and 15 goals in the league is superb, so how they let him go on a free to Millwall, I don't know. Of course, Oliver Street came into the team. He's a player that we picked up on a free at one point, and he stayed in the team for a long time with us, and I think even won EFL Young Player of the Year award. If we look at his milestones and we look at his awards, with us, he won 2024-25 EFL Young Player of the Year. So he was absolutely fantastic and could have had a bright career ahead of him, but I think the Championship kind of was at his level. Went on to Birmingham and Mansfield and Austin after us. The following season, we had Carney on loan a couple of times, actually, I believe, Carney. I don't think we ever signed him, no, but we did have him on loan a couple of times, and he was a really solid attacking midfielder for us. I never got above 7 ratings, actually, by the looks of things, but was a solid player, 10 assists in our first season in League 2, our only season in League 2, and that was really impressive. Oliver Turner, another good player for us for a long, long time. I did retire very early on after going to Sheffield Wednesday and Notts County after us, but I did enjoy playing him in the centre of midfield. This was also when we had Chris Johns in goal as well, who turned out to be a superb keeper for us for about 5 seasons or so, playing 161 times. We also picked up Kabongo Shamanga as well. I think he played very well for Chesterfield one particular season, and we thought, right, if we can have 3 top quality strikers for this level in our team, we'll be absolutely sorted. With Paul Mullin, George Alexander and Kabongo Shamanga, they were absolutely fantastic, but we had to rotate them around a little bit, and I think Shamanga was always the player that didn't quite score enough goals for my liking compared to the other two, so he was always kind of dropped back a little bit. Also, Kofi Balmer, all these names that I'm recognising right now, we signed him in League 2, I believe. Yes, for £130,000 from Larne, and was a solid centre-back for us. I believe he may have won some pretty decent awards, but I could be lying to you there. But went on for a long career with Lincoln City as well, to be fair, which is pretty nice going. Our first season in the Championship, though, we had George Alexander and Paul Mullin leading the line. Ruben Colwell is a name that I remember quite a lot. I'm not quite sure why I remember it quite a lot, because he only had 2 seasons with us, and they weren't particularly spectacular seasons either. In fact, it was only the 1 season with us, and then he left at the end of the summer transfer window to go to Bologna for a decent amount of money. So, I don't know, maybe I don't know why I remember his name so much, but he was a pretty decent player for us for that 1 season. Of course, Harry Lennon was absolutely fantastic. I think we spoke about him before, didn't we, Harry Lennon? But he managed to win several big awards. Hasn't actually had a club. He's a chief scout now. He's a chief scout. I didn't realise he was I should have recognised that when I saw that. But he's a chief scout now at Dulwich Hamlet. Had good few years with us. Incredible ratings. I think the first real superstar that we had in our team, a 7.94, a 7.78, a 7.63. He was absolutely superb. Even in the Championship, getting above 7 ratings for a long, long time. And he definitely won some quite big awards. I'm pretty sure he won, League 1 Player of the Year, League 2 Player of the Year. I don't think the National League did Team of the Year, did they? But he was definitely right up there and everything. Like, he won so many awards. Also, I think our biggest first signing was Apo Holm, who's now a coach but unemployed. I believe, did we spend £1 million on him? No, we got him on a free. Okay, well, I thought he was our first big signing, and I guess he was. Maybe it was quite big in terms of wages rather than anything else, but I remember him being quite a big signing, a bit of a coup at the time for us. Adam Thomas Parry, what a boy he was. We signed him from Bournemouth for £750,000, sold him for $10 million a few years later on. I believe he won quite a few awards, didn't he? He was named in if we go back to the Wrexham days, he was the 2026-27 EFL Young Player of the Year. In fact, he won it twice. Oliver Street won it in 24-25 and Adam Thomas Parry won it in the next 2 seasons, which showed just how good he was. But again, similar to Oliver Street, the Championship seemed to be his peak and level, I think. I also think we made some quite expensive mistakes this season. Luis Henrique being one of them. He was on some big wages, if I remember correctly, but really just did not perform. As a striker, 1 goal, 1 assist in 29 appearances. We got him on a free, but paid some big wages. It was a big waste. Stefano Zarontanello, another one, which was kind of a waste, I believe. 21 games, 3 goals scored. Again, a free transfer, but we paid a lot of money in wages for him. I cannot remember Rodrigo Benegas, what position he played or anything like that. It doesn't even say anything on here about position. But again, I feel like he was also a player that was a bit of an expensive mistake. But once we got past those expensive mistakes, we actually brought in some very good expensive players. Byro was always on loan. I loved him to pieces. Now actually currently plays for Burnley, but he was a great player for us. It was only the 1 season we had him on loan. I feel like we had him more than that. But I absolutely adored Byro. And I don't quite know why, because his average rating was fairly poor and his assists and goals were not that high for a winger. But I seem to recall absolutely adoring it. Maybe he's Brazilian and that might be the only reason why. We also picked up Kazar, which I think at the time was a real coup. A former top quality player. Used to play for PSG, obviously. Signed for us for a couple of seasons or so, just the one season actually, before we sold him off to Montreal the season afterwards. But a 7 rating across the championship season was very handy. We also picked up Paul to play at right back. He was a Spanish young right back who was he on loan to start off with. No, we did buy him for £600,000 from Man City and got some pretty decent ratings, but never quite developed into the player that he promised to be with his potential. But one player I do want to talk about quite a lot is George Webster, who has since gone on to become one of the best players in the world. Look at this, like he is absolutely insane. We always grabbed him on loan from Wolverhampton Wanderers for quite a while. Played some good football for us before they sold him on to Leicester for £41 million. We obviously at that time could not compete with that whatsoever before going on to Man United for nearly £100 million. George Webster, one of the best players I've ever had the pleasure of playing with, I think. Also, we cannot not talk about Carlos Escobar. Wow, what a player. I loved him to pieces. He had 5-star potential for a long time, and I always wanted him to reach that 5-star potential. He just never did. 10 finishing, composure's pretty low. He could have been so good. Sadly, he wasn't ever that good for us, but after we sold him for £4.9 million, it was quite a nice bit of profit. He's had some good careers in South Korea and Qatar. I mean, for a guy with 10 finishing, he scored a lot of goals for us. 13 in 35 in the Championship, 15 in 31 in the Championship this season after that. The Premier League was a step too far, as you can see. 0 goals in 11 appearances and a very poor average rating, so it made sense to sell him at that point. But as a Championship level player, insane. The season that we got promoted from the Championship, though, this is where things changed up a little bit for us when we changed formations to be a lot more attacking, and we brought in some very quality players on loan mostly. Rebergen being one of them, now playing for Juventus right now, and has still got insane dribbling and some very good physicals and all sorts of stuff like that. But he was probably one of the main reasons that we got promoted from the Championship. He got 10 goals and 17 assists in the season we came second in the Championship. Without him, no way would we have been promoted. Did very well in his first season in the Premier League with us and very well in his second season in the Premier League with us as well. Absolutely integral to stop us from getting relegated. But once we'd sort of changed style of play, we weren't using wingers. Really, we should have picked him up for £18 million, I think, but we just never did. And I always kind of regret that. This is also where we picked up some good players like Christian Roxvarg. These were young players with 5-star potential. And actually, Roxvarg's gone on to have a pretty decent career despite never quite working out for us. We had him when he was very young. And, I mean, to be fair, maybe I'm being a bit harsh on Roxvarg here. In fact, why was I so harsh on Roxvarg? 14 goals and 35 appearances, 11 and 33 in the Premier League that season. Why did we put him on loan to Genk and then sell him to QPR? Because he did very well for us. Maybe when we find out who played next season, we'll maybe understand a little bit more on that one, potentially. Jacobson was another guy that we brought in. Not quite as good as Roxvarg in terms of his current career right now, both 27 years old. But after we sold him on to AEK, he stayed there ever since. And I can understand selling him a little bit more. His ratings were never that good. Goals in the Championship were pretty decent. 11 goals that season in the season that we went up. But Roxvarg's the one that I'm thinking got away a little bit. This was also the year with the ill-fated decision to sign Gaston Andreucci. He came runner-up in the Next Gen Awards, and we thought, right, let's spend £4.5 million on this guy to bring him into the club. He will be amazing. And to be fair, got us promoted. And to be fair, kept us in the Premier League, but just never realised his potential at all. And we just could never justify starting him if we had aspirations in the Premier League. We also had some good players like Nelson Lorca as well, another young player that we brought in. We brought in loads of good young players that season. Lorca was a physical guy, to be fair, but never quite had the technical or mentals to keep up with things, and you can kind of see that in his ratings here. But did go to Rotherham and did do quite well in the Championship. So a Championship level player essentially was Nelson Lorca. Martin Statura, a centre mid that we picked up for next to nothing, I believe. Yeah, £93,000. Again, never quite developed, but we had the money and we made money on him, so it was not too bad, to be fair, in that situation. Pizarro, did we talk about Pizarro? I think we just spoke about Pizarro. No, we didn't talk about Pizarro. Again, a player who had potential but never performed, as you can see from his average ratings there, but we did sell him on for quite a lot of money to Inter Milan. Never played for them and has now subsequently gone to Barnsley and done pretty well in the Championship. So a good Championship level player, never quite developed into the player that we wanted him to be. Paul Dillon, a great player as well, really handy at right back and was really good for us for a good few years. In fact, did become our first choice after a while, which was pretty decent going for him in the Premier League. Sold him to Rotherham, familiar situation there, for £11.5 million. And Bradley Fink came in for a season just to help us get over the line and get promoted to the Premier League. His 6 goals in 17 were integral in our promotion that season. So this really feels the 26-27 season like a really big turning point. We've not even spoken about Willy Camboala, who was a great signing. No, we got him on loan and got him on a free in the Premier League. He was pretty solid at the back for us, obviously helped us out massively. Also, Josh Tymon came in that season, and it was a bit of a risk, but he got 18 assists in that first season and then sort of dropped off after that quite a bit significantly. Again, a championship level player, but we needed him to get promoted. So yeah, a lot of really integral faces I remember in that final season in the Championship, and a few of them did end up staying at the club. The seat, it doesn't really change much at all, to be fair, for the next season. Torrey Brekke came in as the keeper, and since went on to play for Man United and Wolves, but never was the first choice at Man United. A Championship level keeper, really was never the guy to win as a Premier League title. Ostergaard came in that season. I was really pleased when we signed Ostergaard for £4 million for our first Premier League season. Actually was integral for the next few years or so before we sold him off to Spartak Moscow. Also, this is when Paul Dillon became the first choice keeper for us. Roxvarg played up front. Lucas Holter was a Brazilian centre-back who played 44 games for us. Wasn't too bad at all, to be fair. And the same with Alec, who is a Peruvian centre-back who... Did he come from Peru? He did. Interesting. I'll keep that one in mind, I think, as we signed him for cheap, sold him for cheap. He was okay. This season, Federico Sione, we signed him, but not the Federico Sione I'm thinking of. This Federico Sione was a very good striker for us. Yes, I remember him now. I was trying to think of which striker I was thinking of. We've had a few Federico Siones over the years in different saves. It seems to be a popular regen name. We signed him for 10 million. A little bit lacklustre in that first season, but... Second season, absolutely insane. 19 Premier League goals. We gave him a big contract as a reward and absolutely flopped after that. It was absolutely terrible. Sold him for a big loss, and I don't quite understand what went wrong with Sione. But that's probably why Roxvarg wasn't at the club so much any longer after this season. Sione became a striker for us, and I guess he just... I don't know what happened to Roxvarg. Who was our backup to him? Gabriel Salom. He was the backup, wasn't he? And again, another striker who kind of turned out terribly. We did sell him for a profit, but he just never ever scored goals for us, and that was a big issue for us. This was also the season when we signed plenty of centre mids. Debbie, a young player who never worked out for us, but is now currently playing in Karabag in Azerbaijan after he went to Leeds United for £17 million from Lyon after we sold him for £12 million, so he's had a pretty decent career. Sandri, still going, is at Benfica, but again, a great player for a good few years. We also get into the Suntesic and the Spadina eras. Now, Suntesic is annoyingly now at Real Madrid. I'm so cross that I messed this one up and let him go on a free. That was not my intention. I completely messed that up, and he went on a free to Real Madrid to Benfica, and then Real Madrid picked up for £23 million, although he never ever played for them for a couple of seasons or so. And Spadina, a player who we always thought was going to be great, and then just never quite turned out to be the player we wanted him to be. But we did make significant profit on him, selling him for £34 million to Ajax. Also, plenty of players like Bernal, Jan Patrick, Luciao that were in and around the team at this point. Luciao is now at Brighton and Hove Albion. Jan Patrick's now at Juventus, which is... Did he go via Brighton? He did go via Brighton and Derby County on loan, interestingly, before becoming an integral part of a Champions... Was he part of a Champions... No, he can't have been part of a Champions League winning team, Juventus. I think he joined them on loan the season when they'd won it the season before that, essentially. So he had a bit of a weird career going to from to Derby County to then Champions League winners Juventus. A bit of a weird one there. And Bernal is currently at Wolverhampton Wanderers, who we sold him to for £25 million. The 29-30 season, though, this is where things got tasty. We have players like Pedro Pereira playing for us, of course, still at the club, and has gone on to win not the Ballon d'Or, but the other global awards. So he's never won a Ballon d'Or, but he has been named best player in Europe and the world and stuff like that, the FIFA sort of things. George Rankin was a great player that eventually had his release fee clause met and went to Man United. I think that was the case, at least. I think It was his release fee clause that was met, and he left the club after joining us from Rangers for 25 million. Kevin Bell, another great player for us on the other side. We bought for cheap, sold for big money to Leipzig. I don't think we could turn 40 million down at that point. Also is when Daniel Patrick appeared, Nick Batsner appeared. He was a fantastic player for us as well. Obviously, for a good few years, we had him in and around the squad, and then he went off to Valencia for a nice bit of profit on that one. Bernal still around the team. Saliba came into the team at this point now at Roma. Obviously not quite the player we need anymore, but he was very handy for a long, long time. Pineda was our goalkeeper. He's now at Everton, but was never the keeper that was going to win us a Premier League or a Champions League, sadly. Also, Romeo Lavia was in and around the team. I spent a lot of time trying to get him into the club, and he was integral for a good 4 years or so, or 3.5 years, before he went on to Zenit, because we couldn't quite justify paying his wages anymore when he wasn't going to play that much. Of course, Randy Ramheimer in and around the team at this point as well, before he went to Arsenal for 10 million, and we bought him back for a lot of money, but I think it was well worth the money because he had scored some very important goals for us. And then we get into the years when we started to really challenge for winning the Premier League title. Pereira and Pepe leading the line. Pepe, such an infuriating striker, could have scored so many more goals for us, but just bottled opportunities left, right and centre. Sold for £40 million to Inter Milan though, so that was a nice bit of tasty profit, to be fair. Paniotov came into the team. Obviously, we'd bought him the season before, but sent him on loan to Young Boys to get a work permit, and he's turned out to be an absolutely incredible world-class player. All sorts of quality players. Nico Mantle's in and around the team at this point. Frank Nice had been signed. He's on the bench at this point. I think it was the season afterwards he started to replace Ricardo Pepi a little bit, but players like Kamara and Greco in and around the team. Yep, Nice and Pereira start to lead the line. We bring Yilmaz Turk in, Daniel Tarpe into the team, which is surprising. Did he play more times? I'm surprised he's in there ahead of, unless we waited to the next season to bring in, who am I thinking of? Martinez. I think we brought Martinez in the following season there. But, you know, Felipe's in there as well. Aït-Nouri's in there. Neto's in there. You know the teams at this point now. Vetalaspa comes in. Sousa comes in. All these sorts of players come through and end up winning us the Champions League. But in all of this, the best 11 overall of all time. Now, surprisingly, no place for Paul Mullen in the starting lineup. It is Pereira and Nice who lead the line, with Daniel Patrick in behind. Apparently this is the most successful formation we ever had, which makes sense. We got quite a few promotions in early seasons using this formation, didn't we? I do like that James Jones is wedged in there. 212 appearances to his name. And actually, Paul Mullen got 217. James Jones got 212. And you know what? I quite like that. The two best players we had at the very start of this save have the most appearances, at least in the league, for this club. And I think that's really poetic, but I'm surprised. I mean, I can understand why Pereira's in there. I guess it's their goal-scoring ratio. It's better than Paul Mullen's ratio, but I would probably have Mullen there ahead of Frank Nice, if I'm honest with you, in the overall best 11. Paniotov is in there, though, with only 113 appearances to his name. Only Frank Nice and Vasco Sousa have left less, to be fair, but he was an integral player. 36 goals in that time from centre of midfield in the league, and insane average ratings. I do like that Bryce Hosanna and Romani Medford-Smith are in the wing-back roles. With Harry Lennon, how could he not be in this team? Absolutely insane. He must have the most appearances. No, we said he didn't, did he? 181, so the third most appearances out of everyone in this list, but it's understandable. In fact, George Alexander had more, 190. I'm seeing players all over the shop here, but George Alexander, great player. Aaron Hayden, Oliver Street, Medford-Smith, and then Chris Johns in goal. That's what you call an incredible Wrexham team. So if we just have a quick look through some records in here, what I do like is most overall goals by a player in a season. The first season, 51 goals from Paul Mullen, was never ever eclipsed by any of our players. Paul Mullen, take a bow, got 45 goals in the league that season as well, which is pretty exciting. And Harry Lennon that first season, a 7.98 average rating, the highest average rating of any player across a season. That's really impressive, to be fair. These old and young players are way before our time. Fastest goal per 19 seconds. Most goals by a player in a match is way before our time, as is most goals in a league match way before our time. But James Jones got 42 assists in that first season for us. No wonder he's in the overall best 11. Also, Chris John's most clean sheets in our second season in League Two. Harry Lennon got most player of the matches in that first season as well. Surprisingly, Harry Lennon got more player of the matches as a centre-back in the season where Paul Mullen got 51 goals, and James Jones got 42 assists. That just shows how good Harry Lennon was. Now, the record transfer fee is a little bit skewed because the board did buy Hoyer for us for £92 million. We never spent that money, the board did when they took over the club. So if we discount that, we'd have to check other transfers we made that season, actually, wouldn't we? Because according to this, Sal Martinez is the most expensive player we've ever bought. But that could be a lie. Transfer history, if we go back to the season where Hoyer was brought in for 92 million. Oh, Kamara, of course. How could I forget that Kamara's transfer, 90 million? But after that £90 million transfer for Kamara, it actually was Sal Martinez, our most expensive transfer we've paid for. In terms of fees received, though, George Rankin to Man United was the highest transfer fee we ever received in this series, which is pretty impressive. He was right up there. Ricardo Pepi, £40 million, was second biggest as well. Kevin Bell, £40 million, right up there too. Also, Tyson Allen, the man who nearly was. He was a great player for us, and he got snatched away from us by Brentford for £12.5 million, and then we could never quite bring him back. I tried several times, but he just never was interested in joining the club. He should have been, because we went on to have a better year than he did, but he had tons of potential and could have been a world-class player for us, I think, if he'd stayed at the club. So yeah, when we look at overall goals by a player in a season as well, like Paul Mullen's 51 is absolutely mental. It also shows massively our first season in the Championship, but 10 goals by Paul Mullen, well, a little bit tricky that season in the Championship. That was really a touch-and-go season, I believe. Rebergen got 11. I think that's probably our first season in the Premier League, maybe. But again, it just shows how integral he was to stop us from getting relegated. But after that, Pereira, Nice, getting tons and tons of goals. It was absolutely amazing what they could do by the end of the series. The biggest win we ever had in this series was a 10-1 win over Fenerbahce in the Champions League group stage. Pretty impressive. We had a few 6-0s in there. Quite a few 6-0s actually, but nothing bigger than that, which is quite impressive. What's been more interesting is the biggest defeat. The 7-2 loss to Liverpool. Oh, that's really... The fact that is the second biggest loss we've ever had, behind a 7-0 loss to Arsenal. That's it. Oh, that hurts a lot. What could have been last season? What could have been if we just got past Liverpool there and didn't capitulate as badly as we did? But I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure what else there is to actually show you. We've gone through the leagues, the cups, we've gone through the best teams, we've gone through some records. I don't quite know what else would be around for you guys. However, if there are things you want to explore, or if you want to carry on this journey, I am going to put these save files up for you guys to download. The save file right at the end of this is going to be available for absolutely everyone. But if you want to have the save file for every single season, Patreon members, you guys are going to get that. There'll be a link in the description to a link in the Patreon for you guys to pick up those save files. A quick one on the numbering, by the way. I have done it really weirdly, if I'm honest with you. So it's a bit confusing. I think Season 1 is genuinely classed as the start of Season 1, and then Season 2's classed as the start of Season 2, but I save it just after the final game of the season. So if we're loading the save file, yeah, it's called Season 2, but you load in right at the end of Season 1, so it technically is Season 2. But I feel like I named it all weirdly, and I sometimes get a bit lost in this process. So just bear in mind that's what it means. So I do want to say a big thank you to everyone who has watched the Wrexham Way series. It's been an awful lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it, and to have an episode or a series with over 100 episodes and there's still thousands of people watching it every single day is absolutely mental. It blows my mind how much you've stuck with this, how much you've enjoyed it, and how much you've put up with me as well. There will be a new series starting next week. I did hint at it in yesterday's video. I'll give you another clue. Ooh, how much of it? We'll be in Peru. There you go. There's a clue. I'll put some more out over on Twitter over the weekend. So make sure you follow me on Twitter as well to keep up to date with all of that. There will be an experiment coming out about it, the new series this is, over the weekend as well on Sunday. There might be a video on Saturday. It depends how much time I've got to do a video with all this new computer and setting things up and new editing software to learn. It's a bit complicated. So basically, what you watched this past week, I recorded the final season of the Wrexham Way about 2 weeks ago, and it's been like 2 weeks of getting a new computer bought, all the parts sent over, getting it built, installing everything on it. It's been a long process, weirdly, and I've taken a bit of time off, to be fair, to have a bit of a break in between series as well, so I feel like I've deserved that as well. But it is a bit of a learning curve right now with everything that's new around me. But all there is left to do is say thank you very much for watching today's episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Make sure you do drop a like on the video for me, subscribe if you're new around here, and leave a comment down below for the YouTube algorithm. Until next time, have a good one. Goodbye.